I want you to try an exercise for me. You're looking at comparing two televisions, and then you ask the salesperson at the store to help you. He or she walks over and you say, which one of these TVs is better? They don't have an answer. In fact, they come back at you with something like, I'm really not sure. I think this one's like LCD or LGE or something like that. Clearly presenting themselves as somebody who is uninformed, right? You go to another store who sells the exact same two televisions, and you ask a different salesperson at a different store to help you, but only this time the salesperson is extremely knowledgeable. They understand the difference between LCD. They understand what pixels mean. I have no idea what pixels mean. They know the differences between the price. They know the differences between the warranties. They know which one will last longer and which one's better for your lifestyle. But remember, the two TVs are exactly the same price. The only difference was the person selling them to you. Which store do you pick? My name is Levi Schechter. For the last 20 years, I've gone from sales to sales training to leadership training. I love what I do. There is no one way to do sales, but there is a right way to do sales. People don't necessarily buy your product, but rather buy the advice that you have to offer. I want to share my knowledge specifically around leadership training. I appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe and like. Let's get started. Welcome back. This is episode 4 on my leadership series on creating a winning culture. If you've tuned into episodes 1 through 3, you've seen the episode on having your first one-on-one, creating clear benchmarks, receiving feedback. And now we're talking about what it takes to be an expert in your industry. And are you doing the necessary things to become an expert? So in traditional Levi fashion, we'll break it up into different segments just to make it easier to transition. Number 1, are you giving your people something to look up to? And that's whether you're running a team or you are the salesperson and you're presenting to a client. That question goes both ways. Number 2, are you seen as the expert? This is specifically by people who are looking to buy a product from you, as per the exercise that we just did. And number 3, are you providing people with up-to-date information based on what you've just learned? Okay, so let's start with number 1. Are you giving your people something to look up to? And when I say that, what I specifically mean is understanding the difference between evolution and revolution. In all my years of teaching sales to both salespeople and sales managers, there are always those who expect to be good at something on day 1 and are disappointed with themselves when they're not as good, especially when comparing themselves to their peers, which is a really, really dangerous road to go down. You have to understand that the people who are excelling at something more often than not are doing something behind the scenes that you are not doing. And this is specifically catered to education. The reference I like to give here is a long time ago I saw a YouTube video on Kobe Bryant giving an interview, and the interviewer asked Kobe, how do you think you're so much better than everybody else around you? Kobe actually gave a very detailed answer that has resonated with me for many years. He said the league mandates a 2-a-day workout regimen, meaning the NBA will pay you for 2 workouts per day, 1 at 11 and 1 at 4. Kobe realized very early that if he slips a 3rd workout into his day at 6 a.m., yes, that's right, 6 a.m., and then does another workout with his peers at 11, and then a 3rd workout with his peers at 4 p.m., he is now doing 3 workouts for every 2 that everybody else is doing. After 1 or 2 weeks, it doesn't make that big of a difference, but after 3, 4, or 5 years, it's almost like if everybody played 5 years in the NBA, Kobe now has the same amount of workouts as somebody who's played for 8 or 9 years in the NBA. He's using a 3rd workout exercise to build a lead on everybody else. Now, you can do this because you're competitive, or you can do it just because you're looking to self-develop. At the end of the day, what you have to realize is that time is finite. I know that sounds a little morbid, but it's the truth. Once you start to accept that the best and most valuable resource that all of us have is time, then you'll start doing more with the same amount of time that you have. I go to the gym 5 days a week, and I go for 1 hour at a time. There are other guys who go to the gym for 5 days a week, also for 1 hour at a time, but they look better than I do. I have to ask myself, what are they doing with the same amount of time that I have to look better than I do? No different in the workplace. Most workplaces give you 8 hours a day of work, 40 hours a week. What are you doing with the 40 hours a week that you've been given to separate yourself from the other people who also have 40 hours per week? Another thing that you just have to accept is that this process never ever ends. Hence the term evolution versus revolution. Revolution means that it's instant. You just got it, you're good to go, you're amazing. Evolution means that it's going to take you time to develop, and you have to accept the fact that it's going to take you a long time, and it's going to be continuous for the rest of your life. It's just the way it is. So if you know that the same amount of time is given to you as everybody else, continue to ask yourself, what am I doing more with the same 24 hours a day that I have than somebody else who isn't as driven as me? The more you learn, the more you earn. Number 2, are you seen and perceived as an expert? I love the idea of being seen as an expert by my peers. The best compliment someone can pay to me is, hey Levi, can I ask you a question? I feel like you would know the answer to this. Whenever someone asks me that, I'm always really happy because that means I'm doing something to earn the title of expert. But in order to be an expert, you have to understand what is at your disposal. And this is going to sound bad when I say it, but you need to know that your organization is never, ever going to give you everything that you need to get a leg up on your competition or to be the best version of yourself. In order for you to do that, in order to be better than the person you were yesterday, you can't rely on just what's given to you by your organization. Whether that's e-learning or pamphlets or brochures, you have to go above and beyond, and you have to separate yourself by doing things that other people aren't doing. If everybody's looking at the brochure that your org is giving you, you have to look at brochures and also do something else in your spare time to separate yourself from everybody else. And here's what that means. You gotta make some tough choices. You gotta swap out Instagram for a little bit more LinkedIn. And look, if you're making money on Instagram and if you've monetized the site, great, you should be paying attention to it. But if you're just browsing through people's photos, comparing your life to others all the time, it might be better to take that same hour that you were doing that and go to sites like LinkedIn, TechCrunch, Forbes, Business Insider. I am a huge fan of LinkedIn. I tell LinkedIn what my preferences are. I teach courses on better leadership, so I subscribe to Better Leadership on LinkedIn. And every time I go, there is a news feed on my homepage that gives me updates on better leadership. I learn from it. You have to continue to be a student, and you have to be humble enough to know that no matter how many things you know, there's still always somebody else out there who is doing something differently than you. You have to continue learning from them. I love going to LinkedIn over sites like Instagram. I know that sounds a little crazy. Don't hate me for saying it, but swap out 1 hour of Instagram per day to 1 hour of LinkedIn. Your future self will thank you. The other thing that I like to do is realizing where I have spare time that I didn't know I had before. The best way to figure this out is to start thinking about, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis that is uninterrupted by others? For some, that could be the gym. You could be listening to a podcast then because you're not talking to anybody else. It could be something as simple as cleaning your house, doing the dishes, the time that you're spending brushing your teeth in the morning. There's this time between when you wake up and when you get in your car or start your morning commute. Call it 20, 30 minutes, call it an hour, however long it takes you to get ready. Why aren't we doing something with that time? Why aren't we listening to a podcast in that time? You could be brushing your teeth, and in the background, there could be a podcast on something you'd like to get better at. And trust me when I say, there's a podcast on your topic. If you're a plumber, there's a podcast on better plumbing. If you're a dentist, there's a podcast on better dentistry. You could be learning from what your competitors are doing. You could be understanding industry trends. I love learning about industry trends. I want to be the person when I'm talking to my team every single day, that they can rely on me to understand not just what's going on in my org. That's easy. I want to know what's going on in my org and everybody else's org as well. Finally, the last topic is, are you providing people with up-to-date information based on what you've just learned? We'll call this the how portion of this YouTube video. If you've just learned something, shame on you if you're keeping it to yourself. Write it down, take what you've learned, and start creating PowerPoints or e-learning material. You have to do this one piece at a time, and eventually you'll build a library for yourself of everything that you've ever learned. The next thing you could do is you can make this library accessible to the people that you teach every single day. If that's somebody that you're talking to as a prospect, you can say, check out this case study, check out this relevant material. I'm going to send you something to look at. If you're a leader on a team, create a library of everything that you've ever taught them so that they can reference it down the line. You can expect people to forget 90% of everything you've ever taught. The remedy to that is to make it accessible to them for future reference. Build a list of bookmarks, build a library, create an e-learning format, or just put it in PowerPoints and make the folder publicly accessible. Your team will love you because they have access to everything you've ever taught them, and at some point they will start seeing you as the expert on all things in your organization. If you you are on the sales side, your prospects will see you as experts on all things in your product. And when that happens, they don't even care about your product. They just care about who's selling it to them. Hi there. If you like my content, subscribe. It's really, really easy. See that guy right there? This guy? Click on his face. Hopefully you love my content. Hopefully you want more of it. The best compliment you could pay is to hit the like button, comment, and I promise to continue to put out good material for you.